tonight, though, because it is a pretty important game. Before I talk about all the stuff about, plugs and whatnot, I do want to introduce to you my co-caster, my partner in crime all season long, the king of statistics and master analysis himself, Gorgon the Wonder Cow. How are you doing this evening? Well, apparently, he's doing so well that he's been scared into absolute silence. So we'll go ahead and introduce you to the folks who make all of this possible, guys. And those are our sponsors this evening. The tournament will be brought to you by Band Gaming. It is a social app, the primary social app of the CSL, with many features like creating groups, boards, calendar functions, polls, chat, and as of recent functionality, Band is a premier social experience for you and fellow gamers alike. Find out more at band.us/home or find them in the Google Play or Apple App Store right now. If you go and you do it right now, if you pick it up, you can join us at the CSL community over at band.us/@CStarLeague and even talk about the games there on social media. So that could be an awful lot of fun. It's also a great place to catch admins, give your 2 cents, and find out about the futures of the tournaments. Now, big shout out to Twitch. They are, as always, nothing but gratitude for the largest streaming platform in gaming to support collegiate esports from PAX East to West and beyond. CSL wouldn't be what it is today without the support of Twitch. And finally, Aces Republic of Gamers. We want to welcome them to the CSL family for the new season, providers of everything esports, from all their wonderful products such as monitors, laptops, routers, and more. Inside or out, you won't win your next battle unless you're equipped with an Asus. Final thoughts, guys. If you want to work in esports, now's your chance. Head on over to cstarleague.com and apply for the job as social media manager. We'll be hiring somebody as the season comes to a close to help lead us into the future, and that could be you working in esports and living the life. So go there, check it out right now. Also, guys, don't forget that later on this month, we're going to be closing down the Aces Republic of Gamers submission contest. In fact, tomorrow is your last day to submit a video to win one of 3 brand new Asus gaming laptops. So go there, cstarleague.com, check out the article about the Asus competition, and have your chance to win a brand new laptop. They're giving away $500, swag bags. If I knew how to make movies, or if I, more importantly, was eligible, I can guarantee you I'd probably be doing that instead of this right now, because laptops, baby, everybody wants them. All right, so that said, it has been wonderful to spend the season with you guys so far. This is the final match of the best of 8, or the round of 8, basically. So what we're going to see here is the last teams to enter the playoffs. And I want to introduce just actually, I think, Gorgon, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Glad to. This is, like you said, coming to a close. Boy, I am about as tongue-tied as I was earlier this week when I didn't have you, and I don't have the excuse of it being in the middle of the night this time. I'm not sure what's going on.
You always have me in the middle of the night, Gorgon.
I'm happy to be here.
So this is Georgia Tech versus California State University, Long Beach. The winner of this game advances to the LAN final in Toronto. Big game because right now each of these teams has secured $2,000 as their prize for the tournament so far. If they win this game, that jumps to a guaranteed $4,000, and that means they're only 2 games away from $20,000, which is a pretty big jump from there. Now they're going up against some big hitters. I believe it was UConn, University of British Columbia, and UC Davies Aggies that are all waiting for them in the Final Four, as well as myself and Gorgon, who will be excited to meet the winner of this match. And really, Gorgon, I think that's the biggest prize that bears talking about in this tournament. It's not that they get to go to Toronto specifically, or that they win tons of money. It's that they get to hang out with you and me in Toronto.
Yeah, I know you're being facetious on that point a little, but I do want to point out that, like, we pull casters and paid esports personnel from this league when people graduate and they want to continue to be part of CSL, like Zingle, who's become a colleague of yours and mine, was last week in the Final Four, in the Final Four, right? His team, University of Michigan, came in second. We got to know him a little bit. We got to get a sense of his knowledge for the game and his enthusiasm. Now he's broadcasting for us. So there are hidden benefits to being able to get FaceTime with not just you and me, but also, you know, the administrators and everybody else here at CSL. If you do want to have a continuing source of contacts as you try to move into an esports job.
So you took my facetious joke and made it into a quality actual chance or a benefit of coming to the tournament. I think it's just
That's
cool
what I'm here for.
to get to go on a vacation in college, to say that you had an all expense paid trip to a LAN final. That's pretty much the bee's knees, if you ask me. That said, let's talk specifically real quick about the two teams, Gorgon. Both of these teams came through the playoffs with a bye round in the beginning. The question that I have is CSU Long Beach going to be able to go the distance? They took on UC Irvine 2-0 and did a very good job against them. And I think that UC Irvine is a good team, and if you guys are watching, I'm sorry, but I don't feel like CSU Long Beach has gone through the same testing that maybe Georgia Tech has. Georgia Tech has come through McGill, Arizona, UConn. I mean, they've really knocked out, especially in the form of UConn, some big teams. Maryland. And then they had to beat Austin, UT Austin, who is a big, strong team, 2-1 to get to this level. So Georgia Tech, I think, has gone through a little more testing ground, in my humble opinion, than CSU Long Beach. So they're my favorite to win this, but it is going to be a very good match because both of these teams came in 6-1 on the fall, and CSU is 7-0 in the spring, and Georgia Tech is 6-1 in the spring. So both of these teams very close to perfect scores.
Yeah, I would say Georgia Tech would also be my favorite coming into this match. Not the team that I want to win, but the team that I think has the highest probability of coming out ahead. That said, Long Beach would not be here if they were not a good team, and they are already picking some fairly interesting style of draft. The Magnus Keeper Light is a combo that we've seen occasionally in CSL. It is two heroes that have had surges of popularity within the last couple of months, especially Magnus. But you don't quite so often see them pit right together. So I think we talked about this in a broadcast a little while ago, like the blinding light and reverse polarity potential to screw up that combo is by itself almost enough to make me say, like, don't draft them together,
right?
Especially at this level of play.
Right. Absolutely. For those of you who may be new to the game or joining us from other CSL matches, long story short, when Magnus, the giant mammoth you see on your screen, jumps in, he tries to pull everybody together with his ultimate in order to dominate them. Keeper of the Light, on the other hand, has a very cool skill called Blinding Light, which makes everyone an 80% chance to miss their shots or their right clicks, which is insanely powerful, but it blows them all apart. So if those two things lay on top of each other, it means the initiation is not going to work. And Magnus, whose real purpose, Gorgon, everything about Magnus is initiation, putting the team together, and controlling the fight right from the get-go. So that's why it's so dangerous.
That's what Magnus is there for. He makes your carry hit hard, and he initiates for you. And Keeper Light can undo all of that with one bad Blinding Light. That said, if you don't have the problem with the Blinding Light, like if your team is all on the same page all the time, a good Illuminate into reverse polarity is the exact opposite situation, right? So it can have benefits. I'm just not positive. The Magnus is presumably your offlaner, which is a real bummer here because a Timber Saw would be absolutely fantastic against a triple strength lineup. And
you have to know that also if Blinding Light's used at the end of the Magnus Skewer combo on Axe, Lifestealer, Earthshaker, so the 80% miss chance is applied after the stun lock is over, that is a huge amount of time that Cal State has to not only control the fight, but put out an intense amount of damage and not take any, because that Blinding Light is not, I mean, that's not a small amount of time. That's a 6-second, 80% miss chance. That's a lot.
Yeah, though, to be fair, Axe and Earthshaker don't really, under most builds, rely very heavily on right-click. So for the Lifestealer, that's very difficult to deal with, but he can always purge that with Rage. So if he rages, the Blinding Light miss chance goes away instantly. Axe is still going to be doing his damage because he has Berserker's Call and Counter Helix, and Earthshaker is still going to be doing his damage with Fissure and presumably Echo Slam after an engagement begins. So the Blinding Light into Georgia Tech is not as potentially devastating as it normally would be, which is just another reason why maybe the Keeper Light will come back to have been a bit of a questionable pick, but it's still too early necessarily to say. If they have a really good Coddle player, it could work out.
Absolutely. And that, of course, comes down to what the CSL is. A lot of people ask us what Mars we're watching right now. Generally, especially at this level, once we hit the sort of Elite 8, MMRs are around, I would say, 5 to 6.5-ish K. So
you might get a couple high fours that are like playing as a support.
Right.
Who are less technically skilled to have a really good understanding of the game that doesn't carry through in matchmaking.
But these players know what they're doing. However, they're not at a level where we expect to see, say, like a pro game. So there is a huge value, as Gorgon sort of just brought up with his mention of Keeper of the Light, to picking heroes you're comfortable with, that you know well, that you really understand the positioning on. Because, and I stand by this in the CSL, a hero pick that you are amazing at is significantly stronger than an amazing hero that you're just okay at. That's CSL.
True at the pro level to some degree. If you have a hero that you're really, really good with, right? If you're the new digital chaos, people ban Meepo against you because you're really, really good at Meepo. But at this level of play, it's even easier to outpace, or more likely that you outpace your opponent's skill level with 1 or 2 signature picks, and those are the ones you want to pick. I'm really not. Normally I'm behind a Magnus pick. Magnus is very popular right now. He works really, really well, especially when you run styles of strategy that Chinese teams have been running lately. But Enchantress really doesn't benefit from the reverse polarity very significantly at all. Neither does OD. You do get the grouping up for Sanity's Eclipse, but presumably you want to initiate the fight with reverse polarity, and you want to use Sanity's Eclipse once you've gotten a couple of stacks of Arcane Orb out so that you get increased intelligence before you use it.
So it looks to me like this draft is designed around Magnus keeping the opponents away from their team. Okay, because Axe, Lifestealer, we got a lot of heroes here who need their Blink Daggers, right, for initiation, and who do a lot of damage when they get up close and personal. If Magnus can get the jump on them, skewer away, get Enchantress max range with their impetus, let OD do his damage from the outside, because his right click is going to be explosive, but he's still going to be a glass cannon. I think that's their goal here, is push them away, do some damage, start nuking them down, and when they start to close the gap again, Keeper of the Light can Blinding Light, he can push them back, he can keep the Blink Daggers on cooldown, and really keep them at arm's length. The problem is, Gorgon, if you've ever watched a good UFC fight, you can go in as a stand-up fighter with every intention of keeping your opponent from getting in close, but it never really works, does it?
Yeah, it's very strange, this Cal State Long Beach lineup. Normally when you have a Magnus, it's an indication that you really, really want to team fight. I think Cal State really wants to gank and split and play a very defensive game, because I do think that the Magnus reverse polarity stacks really well with what they have if he's able to pull opponents into their tower and force them to run away. It's not great if they're just out in the world fighting on neutral ground, because, I mean, Axe, Earthshaker, Crystal Maiden all team fight really well in addition, and Enchantress doesn't really utilize the reverse polarity that well. OD does a little bit, but not nearly as well as a lot of carries would, like, for example, Sniper will have a Maelstrom at some point, potentially. Wraith King does with the Empower, though, so I think that Wraith King really does potentially tie their draft together. But that said, though, Georgia Tech has, I think their draft is a little more cohesive, right? They have Earthshaker and Axe, both of whom can go for a Blink Dagger. You get the Lifestealer Bomb, a lot of single target damage, a lot of control from the Crystal Maiden, the Axe, and the Earthshaker. And then you have a lot of frontliners, as you mentioned, that want to be up close and personal, but you do have the Sniper to pull damage in from the back. Like, they have all of their bases covered. They're able to go out and gank. They're able to team fight pretty effectively. I don't think there's a specific situation in this game where Georgia Tech does not have the tools to potentially handle what they need to do, whereas I can potentially see a situation where that's not the case for their opponents.
Absolutely. All right, so the teams are going to get set up. Gorgon, I'm going to toss it over to you to introduce us to the Dire side real quick as we get this thing started.
Of course, on our Dire side, that is going to be Georgia Tech. We have Bart taking the Crystal Maiden out. That shit is Fuego on the Lifestealer. Leaden Toke is taking Axe for a spin. Game is Hard is on the Sniper. And Adstunt is stomping around on the Earthshaker.
All right, and on the opposite side for the Radiant in this matchup in the Elite Eight is going to be none other than University of California, Long Beach. We're going to have Mikasa on the Magnus down on the midpoint right now. We're going to have this gentleman playing the Outward Devourer. We are going to have your name on the Enchantress. It's going to be Corgi, Juan Kenobi on the Keeper of the Light, and last but certainly not least, Quan is going to be on the Wraith King. The pause comes to an end. For those of you who are just joining us, boys and girls, this is the Sea Starlight. You can check out all the brackets and fun stuff over on SeaStarlight.com. My name's Toffees. I'm joined by my co-caster and partner in crime, Gorgon the Wonder Cow, and this is a game for $2,000. Both of these teams have secured $2,000, but the winner of this match not only secures an additional $2K into their bank account, but they secure a all-expense-paid trip to Toronto for the CSL LAN Finals and their chance to increase that $2,000 to $20,000, which is the grand prize for the tournament this year. So, big game. Expect both teams to play to the bitter end and really bring their A game. Last deny charge is up for you to keep an eye on. Here comes the smoke attempt. They're pinging it out, but it looks like Radiant has smelled it out. They're not taking any risks, not standing on the rune. I'm going to play very carefully here. So the smoke does break. They go back behind, and Corgi sees them, and they don't get anything out of the smoke. Well, they will probably get 3 runes from this, though, I would imagine. Nope, just the 2.
I'm really not sure how Corgi spelt that out. The smoke didn't break when he was walking up here, and it's very clear that he was moving out to try and ward. He just had a sense about it and backed up. He felt a chill down his spine, I guess. Like, that's the sort of situation where people might call stream sniping. Except I'm looking at the stream and it's still in the draft because we have a delay.
Yeah.
You know,
huge delay just for that reason. So nobody can call foul play, other than the fact that, you know what, it felt less, Gorgon, like a smelled it out move and more like a did his research move.
Yeah, it's just so strange that he was on the warpath out to put that ward down and then just kind of backed up. Something in the pause. Maybe they did do some research and somebody reminded Corgi One, like, these guys are going to aggressive smoke. But
by the way, these guys love
they're
smoking.
going to move into the mid lane here to try and harass Ngoi Kun Toy.
Whoa, nicely done. So, you say toy? Is that how you say the last word?
I'm guessing.
Oh, cool.
Just guess.
All right, so Toy OD getting a little bit of harass here in the mid. He's got to deal with. Game is hard. He's going to have a little bit of a hard time to start, but once he gets some range up, he should be fine. Down the bottom, Quan wants to make his move on Lifestealer. Sai no backup. Adcent now comes in, puts down this nicely done fissure to split the 2 off. Core Kenobi comes forward, but all he does is take some damage for his trouble. And that's the trouble with the Earthshakers. He's always there to ruin everything with that fissure. So expect to see a lot of that in this match, a lot of zoning, and a lot of pace control. And against a hero like a Wraith King, just how powerful is that fissure?
I do need to point out, because you may have missed it there, that the Enchantress did die trying to snipe the courier in the mid lane.
I did miss that.
She died 2 creeps behind the tier 2, and she didn't get the courier, which is really unfortunate. That means everybody on Dire gets a pretty healthy little boost of gold. It's basically your reverse courier pick.
And the First Blood gold is still up for grabs, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
So
yes, that's true.
That's now if they also give up First Blood, it puts them in a very dangerous situation.
Yeah. Of course, had she gotten that courier, we'd be singing a different tune. We'd be calling her praises. So it's a very medium risk, high reward play. I think it was worth going for it, but she just walked into the tower a little too far.
Definitely. All right, so Ledin Toke up against Mikasa on the top lane. Mikasa going to have a little bit of trouble in here once Ledin Toke starts to really go for those spin to wins. The upside, though, is the lane will always be pushing in Mikasa's favor. So he can go to jungle, take a couple of things here, roll back. I expect probably an Iron Talon, you think, to come out on him to buy a little bit of space from what Axe is taking away.
Yeah, but potentially he is going to rotate into the jungle. That's not absolutely guaranteed, because he does have a one-on-one here, and he should once he gets some level
1 second. We see a smoke pop by Enchantress. They want to move on the sniper. He's out of position, gets stunned, has to try to get away down river. Nice shot, long distance, but she doesn't have the micro to bring the Tormentor with her, so she'll leave those 2 up on the high ground, and Sniper will be able to walk away through the river. No downside rotation, but nice execution, I guess. Just no backup. Was the goal ever to kill the Sniper there, or just to push him out of lane?
if you can push him out of lane, that's fine.
Right.
You want to basically at this stage in the game, if you can get a kill, that's great. But what you're really trying to do is soak up all of your opponent's regen as quickly as possible, his consumables, and that way you're able to rotate in supports once you whittle them down in a minute or two. Usually, if a first blood's going to come in the mid and it doesn't come from a fast smoke permastun situation, is going to come after the first nightfall when you can actually rotate in a little more successfully.
All right, Crystal Maiden pinged, well, so I guess green. Sniper looks like he pinged here with a vision flash from Adstant, and then the pause came out very quickly because of a virus, according to the team in chat. That said, not a great timing on the pause in terms of being able to sort of see what's happening. Because if we change to different vision modes, you're going to see Adstant definitely sees her, but she doesn't necessarily see him. So Dire will have an advantage as soon as this pause comes off a cooldown.
Well, she does have a lot of creeps. He can't really engage her.
But he can call it back. I think it would have been...
Yeah, he can back up, but he definitely doesn't want to engage. She's got 2 stuns sitting and a shockwave, or what's that called? Yeah, shockwave. This is going to be a confusing game because Enchantress is going to want to use that Hadouken, which is called shockwave, and Magnus has a move called shockwave.
Lots of shockwaves, lots of fun. So far, your name doing a good job of rotating around, keeping some pressure up on the map. Up on the top, let's see what the matchup looks like. There is Magnus is 15-0, Axe is 18-1, so still pretty close. Is that going to spread out anytime soon, or will it sort of stay where it is?
It'll probably stay where it is. Like I was trying to say before that engagement mid, which as I say that we look like we're...
I'll tell you who's not staying where they are, and that is the supports on Dire. They come in, Big Fisher to lock him in place. Toy's got to try to run, get slowed, the value of the sniper there. Adston on the chase. CM not fast enough to get the stun up. Outside, nice use of the invisibility rune. Jukes himself right back out, so really well played there by Toy, keeping his head about him. And knowing just to stay out of range of Crystal Maiden.
Yeah, I will say the Dire are reading this very well, right? So if there's an Enchantress on the other team, she's going to need time between rotations because she has to keep, A, her levels up by going camp to camp, or she'll completely fall behind. But B, she needs to refresh this creep army every couple of minutes. So if you have an Enchantress on the other team, having static lanes and defensive lanes does not do you any good. But rotating frequently out of an aggressive tri-lane is really going to punish this Enchantress pick and put a lot of pressure on her to get out and get a pick sooner rather than later. And since she hasn't been able to do so far, I would say that the laning phase is going pretty handily into the Dire side favor.
Yeah. Now she has replenished her stacks, so she's going to go ahead and farm her opponent's jungle and presumably rotate towards the mid. I would assume, and she now has 2 centaurs. The Rock Mud Golem, though, about to despawn, unfortunately for her. She was really enjoying having that stun. Quan getting chased here. Bart came in with the slow. There's the fissure, but everyone's on the wrong side of it. That should buy him a little bit of space. Will it be enough? He gets the stun off. He's only level 4, though, so not much he can do if he gets caught out. Orange now comes up, starts to put some damage on Bart. Enchantress from the back makes their move. They want Adstant. They want the supports. Adstant getting low, but Quan in some trouble. Fuego turns back around. They get the kill on the Earthshaker, and the rest will have to fall back. So Bart just barely surviving, and a nice... They couldn't have expected the Enchantress to come out of their jungle. Otherwise, that would have been a really, really great play for them. I think it would have worked out well.
Yeah, it was just good timing from the Enchantress. Also, the fact that when that Rock Golem despawns, that's the moment where she's going to rotate, because it does break down into 2 stuns instead of 1 for a short period of time. So when she's up here and the timer's about to fall, she's absolutely going to rotate in. And that might be a good... Somewhere in this general river area, Dire need to have a ward. And they have recently, just after that, gone and placed one that should maybe help scout her if she's rotating from the jungle, although it is pretty deep toward mid.
Yes, she'd have to walk very close. Like the line's pretty bad. That said, though, they are at least trying there. The goal lead and the XP lead is still marginal in terms of differential there, so any team still able to sort of hold this one and take it home. Toka Mikasa still having a good fight up on the top lane. Bottom has been back and forth. We'll flip over to net worth so you guys can sort of see where the standings are right now. Sniper leading the charge, but not by much. Then Magnus, no pun intended, second in the charge, followed by Axe, and then the rest of and then Green. So nobody outside of a 400 gold net worth over their opponents. Is there a team that is more? Which team is more on a timer, or more needs to be farther ahead at sort of the 15-minute mark?
I don't think there's a specific moment necessarily where one team needs to be ahead, but I will say Dire overall want to come into the game, the mid game stronger. Whenever that mid game opens up, and Dire need to be the ones doing it. Because they're going to need to create some extra space for this Lifestealer to catch up. One of the downsides to this aggressive lane and having the supports rotate out, which I was praising a little bit earlier, is that the Lifestealer is going to need jungle time in order to catch back up, or a lot of kills.
Right.
He's just not having the same level of farm that he would get in a traditional safe lane.
Enchantress was thinking about messing with Sniper, decided not to do it. Sniper at level 7 right now. Pings out on the bottom as they think about going after Quan. Quan trying to build the Hand of Midas. I don't know if they've picked up on that or not, but they're being very aggressive about going for a gank right now. Knowing he's not 6 yet, knowing that he's saving the gold to try and buy that hand, by that 10-minute mark. Meanwhile, up top, okay, Led and Toke, Mikasa going head-to-head. The gank on the bottom is now underway. Fissure fails, so Quan gets separated from the team. He's happy to be left on his own. Led and Toke needs to be careful here as he goes back the long way. Quan still in some trouble on the bottom. Rotations came out to the top, so nobody ends up going down. Wait, Enchantress looking for Ledin. They do find it. There's the stun, the follow, the clap, the slap, and down goes the big red badass. Quan, however, still happy to just do his thing. Put that 1 point in Vampiric Aura, and is healing himself up by right-clicking all of these things that they're allowing to go through, and there's nothing they can do to seem to stop him. Bart comes in, sees him, can't do much till the rest of the team arrives, but hey, here's Corgi Wan making sure he stays okay. In they come, puts up the root, Quan with the harass, decides not to worry about it.
Yeah, they really needed to secure a kill in this right before he hit level 6. This game just got a lot harder.
Yep.
That they weren't able to do that. Have they been able to gank the Enchantress. I think she died. Yeah, she died once just to those creeps, but they haven't actually killed her and gotten that kill goal directly onto somebody. The fact that she's rotating around this much and has not really been vulnerable to being killed while she's alone in the jungle, it really plays out to her team's favor.
Absolutely. Now we're going to see Toy take a shot from Game is Hard. Nope, he canceled. Never mind. Back to the bottom, where not only did they not get him before 6, but remember we talked about the Hand of Midas. He's 3 gold away from having it, so if they don't kill him by this last hit, Midas will be done and immediately purchased and flown out. So he's going to have his 10-minute first use on that Hand of Midas. And there are a few things that I hate more than going up against a late-game Hand of Midas Wraith King.
Yeah, to be fair, he's getting that out pretty late. Before the changes to passive build up.
Corgi in some trouble. They make their move. They do go after Corgi. They're able to get him. Bart caught in the bad side of the fissure, but he'll be able to get out the back. No issue whatsoever. Yes, he is getting it late, but I think that he's getting it at a good timing considering that he was at a lane disadvantage the entire time. Quan comes out, puts up the slow stun on the CM. She may burn down, and she will, so Quan gets the pick. Meanwhile, up on top, your name finds Led and Toke. Led and Toke trying to get away, but the Impetus doing some damage. That'll be the end of that as he walks off. Adstant here. Quan wants to go. He's got the mana, and there's no mana drain, so he knows that he's safe to come back to life and can be very aggressive with Corgi on the background.
Yeah, they are just really, really abusing this Keeper of the Light Wraith King combo. He's just throwing out Wraith Fire Blast all day long, and with the Keeper of the Light here, you just can't kill him.
Yeah.
He will always have mana for the Reincarnate.
Quan comes forward. He's going to have Wraithfire off in 1 more second. Can he close the gap to shoot it? No. CM has to run for the hills. Well done, but it is a brutal combo. And in fact, it feels almost like they put it together just to make this lane more comfortable for the Wraith King as he's having a good time. Up on top, Your Name and Mikasa are going to go ahead and farm up this tower. Toke can only throw out his Battle Hunger and try to slow them down. Rotation from Game is Hard here. He's got to be careful. If he gets cut off, he can find himself in a tough spot. Also, smoke rotation. They want to find Corgi. They will. The fissure fakes, comes out, but it catches Corgi on the back. It's not going to be enough, and he'll get himself to safety. They're pinging out the Wraith King, but he's going to hide in the trees, and should be able to ease his way to safety.
That should have absolutely been a kill, and then a follow-up kill on the Wraith King. There's very little that could have been done there, other than if they dropped the ball at the shortstop. Especially because it's taking 2 heroes to push this top lane against Axe. And speaking of which, reverse polarity used up in the top lane. Enchantress is going to have the damage, but there's a Fuego coming back in. Should be able to get the return kill on Magnus. He does not have a charge for another 14 seconds. No, he jukes.
Gone.
Wow. And once again, that's a kill that you really lament missing.
Meanwhile, on the bottom, Quan chasing Bart. Bart's going to do the same thing. Yep, he gets away. So nicely played on both sides by the escape heroes. They got the kill on the axe, which is nicely executed. And a brief just so people know, Twitch chat asked if my neighbors are hammering on the roof. No, the teams asked to reschedule this game due to school things, and we agreed. The downside of that is my son is here and awake and playing upstairs, so you may get a couple of those. I apologize. We wanted to make sure that the players got the best possible time frame for their college experience, or for the chance to earn their way to the LAN, I guess is the way to say it.
The next game that you watch from the CSL is going to be a LAN game. There's going to be plenty
Sure.
of background noise there. So why don't we just go ahead and pretend that this is
all about the training.
Planned, yeah. It's a planned training exercise for Toffees to cast in high-pressure situations.
All right. Oh, now they're going to move forward. Your name does get caught by Toke. Toke comes in, puts up the call as the stun ends. She's stuck inside of it. Nice heals, but they're not going to be enough. They get the big kill on the Enchantress, and she will go down. Meanwhile, Mikasa and Fuego still going back and forth. Mikasa trying to slow work down this tower. Quan and Corgi getting low. Quan's going to TP to the shrine and presumably is not even need to use this. He can just heal back up off of the vampiric aura and leave Corgi to just enjoy defense. 2 points in Illuminate are pretty strong to hold back their creep waves.
Now, this is the big downside to having the Hand of Midas on the Wraith game first. He really, as the Dire starts to collapse, he really can't contribute very much of anything at all yet. He will be able to later, but the fact that the Axe now is going to have enough for his Blink Dagger and is really going to plan on being active, that's the go word for them. And the fact that they had 2 heroes up here for a long time and were still unable to get this top tower. And now this top lane is relatively safe for the Lifestealer to do some catch-up farm while the rest of his team is creating space.
Yeah.
Dire have missed a lot of opportunities to crack this game open in a way that they really probably should not have, but the game is starting to hit the moment where you would expect they should be able to control the pace as long as they don't make any more misplays.
Yeah, they missed a few chances, but the game, because of the way that Radiant's playing it, is very clearly going to give them a few more. It has already begun to do so. You can see the gold lead starting to move back towards Georgia Tech for the first time in a while. TP comes in from Led and Toke right before the tower goes down. Skewer to buy some time, but here comes Fuego from the back. Your name putting in a lot of impetus shots, doing some good work here. As she's now runs backwards, puts up the hill. Mikasa trying to help out as much as he can. Goes ahead and throws out the range boost, but it's not going to be enough. Down he goes. Led and Toke finishes the job, and now he's on the run. Bart comes in for the save, gets a good stun. Huge double fissure. In for the dunk. Now they want the OD. OD screams, oh no, as he's got to go back to base, and they get a 3-man pickup as they walk into that fight the same way that the Lemmings walked off the cliff, one after another. Bopped on the head. Send the next one, please.
Yeah, that lemming thing, that comes from a myth that was perpetuated after a Disney film faked footage of lemmings walking off of a cliff. I can assure you that series of unfortunate plays was very real. Disney was not involved.
Yeah, were lemmings real? I thought it was dodo birds that were faked.
No, lemmings are a real thing.
I didn't know
Dodo
that.
birds were a real thing too. They're just extinct.
They deserved it, though.
That's true.
They had that coming. Mikasa, all right, comes forward, puts up a nice little shockwave here to try and hold the base. They will lose the bottom tower, presumably. TP coming in from Fuego. Wants to go on Quan, doesn't care. Adstant comes in. Nice fissure to separate out. Gets the double stun. There's the blinding light, and it will push everyone backwards. Buy Quan some time to run away. He is going to get caught with the sniper ultimate. Fuego still on the chase. Sees him. Can they stop the TP? They don't have an interrupt, and he'll get to safety.
That's fine. You forced him back up top.
Meanwhile, Led and Toke comes in. That was a ballsy play. Comes in, gets the pull. Skewer back to tower. Wants the extra damage on Led and Toke. Runs away from the spins. Well executed there. Mikasa knew he'd get the spins from the melee creep, but knew the tower damage would get him close enough that all he had to do was shockwave and stay out of spin range, and it worked out. So, ballsy play by Axe that ended up with a castration.
In his defense, he got really unlucky with the RNG there. He got hit probably about 12 to 14 times and got 1 spin. That's really uncommon.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's take a look at Game is Hard. He is the sniper, the glass cannon that much will rely on, I think, from the side of Georgia Tech as this game progresses. He's got the Dragon Lance up and running. He's working on the Maelstrom. It's a little slow, but they haven't really come after him recently, so he's able to get himself up to 5.7k. The issue that they have is the Wraith King does have top gold. The problem is, I guess, or the upside for GT is he spent a lot of that on the Hand of Midas. He does now have the armlet. He's working towards a Blink Dagger next, but it does buy them some time to get themselves back into this thing. Corgi comes in with the Mana Leak.
I was going to say he's sitting at about 5.8k in terms of actualizable work that contributes in combat. So he does have a little bit more time to catch up, or that he needs to catch up.
Uh-oh, there it is. Nice play. They make the move. Good skewer backwards. The double kill. Everyone's here. OD on the chase. Wants to go for sniper. Gets him caught inside. They're on everywhere, but where he needs to be. Goes for the TP. Can't get out of there. Boom goes the dynamite. Down comes the Sanity's Eclipse hammer. And 3 die. It's like the exact opposite of what we saw 3 minutes ago going the other way. These teams are sort of just getting caught and throwing the bodies at the meat grinder.
Yeah, I think that was just another case of a little bit of sloppy Joe Dota coming out of GT. There have been some moments where, like, you can tell.
Fuego's coming forward. He says, "You like sloppy Joes? I'll make them extra sloppy for you." Tries to make his move forward. Let it choke with the triple, but gets pushed back by Mikasa. He's alone, separated from the rest of his team. Nice play by Bart. Lots of damage. Going to separate all of Radiant. Stun comes out. Isolated. TP. Not going to work. Astral Imprisonment to buy some time. Let the rest of his team escape. He knows he's going down, and he will do so, but not before he lets the rest of his guys get out. So, a very bold, with 2 heroes up, rotation in from underneath the tower to take that fight.
I would say Georgia are making better overall tactical plays in this game. From their movement, from their overall decision making. I'm seeing that they know what their game plan is, they know how they win, and they know how to engage the map. The big problem that you're really seeing from them are a handful of very, very short moments where they get really unlucky with the moment that they aren't tactically in the right spot happens to be the moment that their opponent is also looking to kill them, or just mechanical errors, like not ground targeting when moving through fog, for example, is something that's cost them a lot of damage, potentially kills throughout this game. And that's stuff that I know that these guys know to do.
Right.
So if they are able to shore that up, it's looking like a very good game for them. But if they continue to...
Infest Bomb, they didn't even need it.
There it is. Yeah.
Comes out, gets the dunk, holds the Infest, and they'll back away and easily take the tower. CM from the high ground making a nice little attack there. That's just enough to slow, land the Frostbite, and then just allow Let and Toke to come in and finish the job. And they go, and the counter though, Mikasa gets a big reverse polarity, pulls everybody back under tower. Tower will go down. Impetus from the outside though, gets body blocked. Your name would have had a kill for sure if she hadn't run into a wall of creeps she could not get around. So they'll only get the CM for their trouble.
Yeah, if the reverse polarity had actually gone off there in addition to the skewer, that's probably a triple kill, but
that's
I just
true.
couldn't quite get it. It seemed like a miscommunication. There's a lot of room for miscommunications in this game between the OD, the Coddle, and the Magnus. I mentioned this during the draft, but we just saw it in play there. Everybody needs to be exactly on the same page, or none of these fights are going to work out.
Right. So just an instant off. It was a great job to slow down the push and what I think could have been a lot more damage. That said, they did get everybody locked up. They were able to get the one pick and push everyone backwards. And honestly, if not for some bad luck on the part of the Enchantress's pathing, they would have easily gotten a double kill out of that as well. So even without the RP, they were on track to get exactly what they wanted out of that whole thing. The Goldie, by the way, is about 6,000 for Long Beach right now, guys. 4,000 for Long Beach as well. They have the Wraith King and they have Mikasa both farming very well. The problem that they're running into is Wraith King put a lot of that into a Blink Dagger and a Hand of Midas, so no actual damage output. So how big is that lead when you talk about where the Wraith King is in terms of his farm? Is Radiant or Dire in control of the game right now?
You know, I think the Wraith King now has the damage in order to control these fights, if there's a good reverse polarity, and that's the big if. Because if he has Empower on himself, right, the Empower is maxed at this point. So you're talking an extra bonus 50% damage, cleaved at 50%. Wraith King already has Mortal Strike, which gives him 500% crits. So he doesn't need damage items necessarily in order to contribute a lot of right-click into these fights. The big problem is they have no real control. Wraith King can blink in, he can throw out the Wraith Fire Blast, but if you do not get a really good reverse polarity, he is going to get kited.
Right.
He's going to get one hero, and then there's just no control remaining.
Smoke rotation as they look for someone here. They search all of the farm locations. Nothing's going to be there. So your name says, well, I'll take some farm then happily. Nothing to find, but it also looks like Dire smelled it out, saw something going on, and decides to hide out and not risk it. That does give Radiant a very good control in terms of vision on this map right now. So Radiant knows every time that they try to farm their low jungle or their small jungle, and can do anything that they want in the mid to top lane because they'll know exactly where they are. So nice get there. Game is hard. It's going to try to defend from the back. Quan comes forward. He's going to go ahead and play the tank on the tower. Blinks away just as the snipe. Actually, that's pretty good timing on the shrapnel blink. I don't know. That would have been that fast.
Yeah, so here's one of the big problems. Once again, there's so much of this fight that's coming up is going to depend on the Magnus. And I mentioned this during the draft, right? These guys don't really have a lot of control when it comes to engaging into their opponent's towers. The way that they drafted, they've got much better control defensively. So this fight, once again, has a lot of room for going wrong.
All right, here comes the fight. Fissure comes out, 4 staff away. Nice save, and they back off. Not interested in taking the fight too deep. Georgia Tech doing a good job of defending their push. The problem is, with Quan out in front, he's got...
So smart.
What's so smart?
The dire side smoking up to go around. Unfortunately, they did it on top of a ward. So it will be sniffed out, and they all know it, so... But, yeah, that was a really smart attempt to smoke and then wrap all the way around. They would have easily gotten 2 kills before anybody knew what was happening.
So they don't get it, though. They have to go back. Smart vision getting by the guys from Long Beach. Pays off again as they start to push in. Coddle's so annoying, easily clearing those creeps every single time so that the push can continue, even if it's just chipping, because there's not much they can do to stop the tower from that Coddle sort of just pushing waves forward nonstop.
Here we go.
4 staff forward, they pull up with the skewer. Big Echo Slam, though, does everybody dirty, and they're going to get 3. We're going to see Wraith King come back up because that's what Wraith Kings do, but he's alone and he is isolated. Puts out the shot on Sniper. It's not going to be enough. They get a quad kill, and now the OD has to run for the hills. They tried to do a 4-staff Magnus initiation that sort of worked, but Led and Toke stood in the background until the right time and said, don't worry, I'm prepared for this.
I hate to say I told you so in that way, but like, that's just such a hard initiation for them to make aggressively with this lineup. They've got no way to safely pressure the tower other than Enchantress creeps, which, as you've seen, is really underwhelming at this juncture in the game. So the only way for them to do are these insane 4-staff Blink Dagger, full reversal, non-RP skewers, because if he blows RP in there, then he's not going to get enough heroes. So he has to save RP for later in the fight. He has to get the carry, ideally the sniper, out from behind the tower, and it's all on the Magnus. Nobody else can do it.
They do go up. They manage to grab themselves the Life Stealer. He's left alone, so he'll very likely go down here. Illuminate throws out the blinding light to stop everybody from closing. Now Corgi trying to get into range. Got the mana leak off, but not enough mana to stop the man in his tracks. And they got a good return kill. Life Stealer a great pickup for their trouble. Not enough to make up for a 4-man team crush, basically, as the Goldie goes from 6,000 down to 1,900, and the XP is now on Georgia Tech's side for the first time in a while.
Yeah, this should maybe... No, here we go. It's
another base. That's what he
did get the sniper.
He wanted the sniper, but he's all alone. Sniper will get caught by the impetus. One more shot, not going to happen. Good play there. Adston into the trees goes the Crystal Maiden, putting out a lot of damage. Mikasa left alone, going to go down as they all close the gap on him, and they do finally finish the job. So they lost the Wraith. Did they lose Wraith King a long time ago, or was it in that fight? It was before.
That was, I wanted to point this out. That was all Led and Toke that made that. Once again, Magnus made a really nice skewer there. I can't really reinforce enough that he's doing his job really honestly about as well as you possibly could given this draft and the situation of the game. But Led and Toke smelled it out, jumped behind him, he got a big call, and that's why when the Magnus had the sniper pulled out in front of his tower, there was nobody to follow up. The Axe had already moved in, killed the Wraith King, and disrupted the back line. So Magnus, once again, great engagement, no follow-up from his
Quan walking in, leading the charge. Everybody else turns back around. The Blinding Light going to knock them backwards. Ledin Toke comes forward, thinks about the call. They make the move. Wraith King dropping low. He's going to go down. He has the ability to come back up. Ledin Toke just standing there. Gets the kill on Coddle by popping the Blade Mail. That's why he just stood there. He knew what Coddle was up to. Ends up costing him. And now they want to go back into Roche potentially, as they know that they've got the Wraith King ultimate down. Wraith King's going to go ahead and farm the creeps, or the ancients, and Fuego is going to come in here and looks like he is going to try to snap up that Aegis as soon as they can burn it down.
I would really love to see Long Beach just defend this Roche because you kind of have to. You don't have a choice at this point. But as soon as they can transition to a defensive posture. You have a Midas and your opponents do not. You have a Magnus who goes into the late game extremely effectively. Wraith King and Enchantress both go into the late game very well. OD can, but is usually momentum based, so that ship has probably sailed a little bit until you get to the very late game. Meanwhile, opponents here, Crystal Maiden falls off. The Earthshaker, the magic damage that comes out of Earthshaker falls off, although the physical damage will scale back up. But they are just so much better as a defensive team just from the overall composition alone. They really should transition in defensive wards, try to control their own jungle, start getting ganks like I mentioned in the draft that they could be very good at, and force their opponents to come to them. They aren't going to win this being hyper-aggressive like they are. They're just going to continue to lose ground and make it harder to defend later.
Game is hard. Ledin Toke, everyone else going to start rotating, or gets the Aegis, goes off, gets their heal on, and there's, like you said, nothing. I mean, you didn't say that. They should have tried, but Radiant not willing to do anything about it. They didn't feel like they had the strength to get in there and take that fight. And honestly, I don't think that they did. So it felt a little bit like, yeah, you take the fight because you have to, but really, is it better to just sit back, try to find some farm, and guarantee you don't lose anybody at this point?
Yeah, probably. I would not have blamed them if they wanted to try and engage there. If they had managed to get the Magnus around this west side of the pit and pull somebody out, somebody alone, so that his allies would have to come all the way around to help him, that could have been a one fight in a way that they would not. They're not getting a lot of opportunities like that. But they don't know where their opponents have vision up. They don't know how low Roche is. There's a lot of unknowns there. So from their perspective, I think, yeah, it's very reasonable to just back off and start playing defensive. I'd much rather see that than them get overzealous and try to defend or try to attack when they don't really have the strength.
Gold lead, by the way, dead even for the first time since the 5-minute mark. Georgia Tech has pulled that back aggressively over the last 20 minutes or so. Gold lead, or experience lead, I'm sorry, is now 4,000 in the favor of Georgia Tech as they hunt Mikasa. Ledin Toke gets the call, reveals the man that was hidden, and so he is not. They got a really good pick, and Georgia Tech feels like they were a little bit clunky at the very start of this game, but I feel like they've got their legs under them and are starting to play the way that we expected them to when we talked about them at the start of this match.
Yeah, they've definitely tightened up. Granted, it's easier to be a little tighter when you have much more net worth, right? There's greater margin of error there. So, I will say Georgia Tech are a team that I think that every time we've cast them as well, they've struggled a little more in the laning phase than they have into the mid game, which makes them one of these sleeper teams that's very difficult to play against. Just one more reason why this very odd draft from Long Beach just doesn't necessarily seem to fit the role that they need.
Rotation from behind. We see TP's coming out from Dire. They want to get in behind the Radiant. Immediately we see the TP coming in from Axe. Fuego pops the Lust, wants to go after Enchantress. She's doing damage with Impetus, but she's got to run. Fissure with the Separator, but not the one they wanted. Toke ends up going down. Fuego's got to come forward. They got the first kill on the Wraith King. Turn it back for the second. Enchantress is the only one down for their team so far. They do get the Wraith King, making it 2 for 2. Axe and Sniper both had to give their life in the interim as well. Meanwhile, Corgi and Toy decide this is not a place they want to be, and they get out of dodge. Who's that trade best for right now?
That trade
pretty
is
even.
I would probably say, in terms of if it had gone wrong, it would have gone really, really wrong. Like they did pretty well there. They probably should not have been that far forward, but they did almost get this tower. They did trade pretty even, and they are behind, I think. No, they were ahead in net worth. So yeah, like you said, pretty even. It's hard.
Pretty
to
even.
call a winner there.
The biggest upside really is that they got Wraith King's ultimate down for the next minute and a half, I guess, so they can push a little harder if they want to. But not much else really came out of there.
Yeah. And they are going to put some damage on this tower, but I doubt that they're going to be able to knock it down out of this. So I do want to point out that the plays from Legend Toke have been so good this game. He's isolating the Wraith King with call. He's not worrying about getting these huge multi-man calls in those sorts of engagements. And then this shit is Fuego. Very smart, using his rage at the open of the fight to attack the Enchantress down so that her Untouchable does nothing. But they are actually going to be able to knock this tower down. There's no defense whatsoever.
They're going to go ahead and infest TP at Bart to the top. So Bart's going to go searching for Purple, who was trying to do a little split push up there on the top tower, waiting for those creeps to come forward. Bart going the long way around, using that invisibility, but doesn't find anybody with the Glimmer Cape. Meanwhile, Mikasa might get caught in some trouble as Ledin Toke is on the hunt, comes in, gets the call. Mikasa doesn't have a lot of backup coming. Ascent comes in with the Empower, gets himself the kill. Now, Crystal Maida did get picked off by Your Name, going after Fuego. The impetus is there. Good toggle timing, though. Ends up going down. Aegis is going to get popped. Lots of backup. Ledin Toke comes in, misses the call. Quan is here. Fuego turns back. Is going to go down again. That impetus very, very strong. Gets the toggle on the Rage, but it's just not enough. Buys a little bit of time from the OD there. Huge jump by Ascent, but it's not going to be enough. Ledin Toke's going to go down. He gets the Wraith King permadeath, and Ascent has to run. Your Name is low, but Ascent should maybe turn back around. They go 1 for 1 on those two. It ends up being a 3 for 2 exchange. I'm sorry, 3 for 4 exchange across the board, favoring the guys on the Radiant side.
Yeah, the sniper is going to try to come out and close that gap a little bit. He should be able to get this kill if he can get in here. Yeah, there it is. That's... Oh, he doesn't have the mana for his ultimate. Never mind. He's not going to be able to close that.
Should have swapped out that bottle a while ago, buddy.
Right? If he had had the mana from that bottle, that would have been a dead to rights kill. But, you know, not necessarily expecting to have to use the shrapnel there either. The sniper is starting to scale a lot more, too, than I think.
Yeah.
Radiant are prepared for, because they haven't really been seeing a lot of them in these fights.
All right, I'm going to go down, as we have a little bit of a lull, I'm going to go down through each of the heroes here and see what their builds look like. So it looks like Wraith King went ahead and picked up the damage, Wraithfire Blast options as he leveled up. I'm going to see that Magnus decided to go with the extra gold per minute. Is that pretty common on the Magnus, or is it more common to see the strength there?
I think it's pretty common to see the gold. I would be surprised if it's less than 60-40 in favor of the gold.
Sounds good. Enchantress gets stats and damage, not a big surprise. That damage output obviously scalable at range, so means quite a bit. OD decides to go for armor and mana over attack speed, and Kato Guy decides that he just got his first point not long ago and is going to spend it on survivability, picking up that strength.
Yeah, so I did just look it up. It's 70-30 in favor of gold in terms of pick rate in pubs. But, of course, like almost every gold talent, the alternative does win more often.
Right.
It's a pretty close trade-off, though. That's one of the better gold talents in the game compared to the alternative. Because the strength doesn't give you a whole ton on the Magnus other than some survivability.
Right.
And, you know, a little bit of damage. Overall, you're not dying for those things. So if you are, especially in a game like this where realistically speaking, these guys are going to probably be turtling for a while and not trying to engage, that gold will hopefully be able to stack up in a way that it wouldn't in a game where Magnus is forced to be active, which is what you normally expect from a Magnus.
Sniper went with the 20 shrapnel DPS pickup as well as the attack speed. Everything else seems pretty average here. It's 250 health. Lots of tanking choices coming out of Georgia Tech. Looks like they may be making a choice to go for a smoke rotation. They put down the Sentry Ward. They know there's nothing there to see them. They smoke and they rotate. They're thinking Roche probably up soon. We can peek in there. See if maybe one of the opponents is trying to get some work done. Ledin Toke gets infested, so a big invisible infest bomb on the way as they look for somebody to eat alive. Quan going to be the one out of position. Nobody sees him, fortunately for them, and they're going to make a fast move. He blinked out, though.
Yeah, this OD, we've been missing a lot of OD plays. He's been struggling since the laning phase, but in terms of his overall reaction time, he's been really, really on the ball.
I mean, it's pretty impressive to blink out of a blink initiation from an axe.
Yeah. And
An
this is
invisible
not a
axe.
slouch axe either.
No.
11 Toke has been playing really well this game.
Yeah. So I mean,
he's 7, 5, and 9, and I don't think that those stats are representative of his contribution, to be honest.
no, that was a phenomenal play by Toy to stay alive. They burned the smoke, which is absolutely a necessity. Had he gotten caught there, I think it could have been some serious bad news bears, or at least an easy roach without much contest. Gold lead is still barely in Long Beach's favor. XP is still slightly on the size of Georgia Tech, as both of these teams are staring the late game right between the eyes. We've got that Life Stealer versus that Wraith King Sniper versus, I guess, the OD. Who's late game? Who's post 40-minute life? Actually, hold on a second. Bart. Oh my god. Massacre. It's like, yeah.
I would say that the Radiant side Long Beach are winning these engagements. Like, the passivity is favoring them tremendously. Not only do they have 2 minuses, they also have gold talent. Nobody on Dire side has a gold talent. So they are getting a lot more gold just kind of passively off the map. And they're not being forced to stay out of their own jungle. They're not being forced away from farming. And as I mentioned earlier, I think all other things...
A big initiation as Toad comes in, gets a huge call. Impetus from the background, putting in some work with the Blade Mail, does a little bit of return damage there. Shrapnel, Fuego, closes the gap, get close. That's how you beat an Enchantress. Adamant goes too far. BKB on Game is Hard, makes the game easy. Fuego on Quan. Quan's come back up. 29 seconds left to kill him. The Blade Mail is popped, but it's not enough. It's 4 down. And Game is Hard and Fuego, the 2 survivors, the most important people on the team, walk away with cash in hand and push on the mind.
It's really a shame that right as I'm saying, oh, I think these guys are winning because of passivity, they are getting themselves into the situation they need to find themselves in. They try to be overly aggressive and force the fight. They really could, honestly, just make their opponents come to them every single time. As long as they keep up good vision and are patient, they could come into this the later ends of this game with a lot greater advantage than Georgia Tech has. I almost called them Georgia again. I know the chat hates that.
Fuego comes forward. A little help from Game is Hard. They have plenty of time, but not a lot of life as they work down the Roche here. So they'll finally kill him. Thank goodness for Crystal Maiden, huh? And be able to take this out, put the Aegis on the Life Stealer here. And that's going to be a really tough thing for Long Beach to fight through in this next engagement.
You know, again, if they play defensively, the Aegis on the Life Stealer is obviously it's a big deal, but it's not as big of a deal as you might think, because if he dies, he's probably going to die deep behind your own tower, maybe inside of your base, probably alone, because your Magnus has skewered him, reverse polarity'd him, and dropped him in a really, really difficult spot. So you can probably kill him twice with maybe 1 or 2 casualties if you're playing defensively. Every single time the game has gone wrong since the laning phase has ended for Long Beach, it's been because they've been overly aggressive onto towers or trying to pull ganks into big 5-man rotations from their opponents. And I mentioned during the laning phase that it looked like that's kind of what they wanted to do, but that would probably be a losing strategy. I even mentioned it in the draft.
What do you think about this Lennon Toad quick buy build he's looking at right now?
What has he got? Null Talisman and Dagon. I don't love it, but it works into the Enchantress. That's why he's getting it.
That's true, because the issue has been she's doing a great job of keeping range. She's doing a good job of pacing these fights or positioning, and she's tearing apart. If she can get that range on Sniper, it's just completely wrecking him. So if they can nuke her down, good on them. They ping out Mikasa. Mikasa immediately goes for the TP, smelling something remiss. And look at that. Toke knew where he would be, got the call, but it was about 2 seconds too late as Mikasa says deuces and thanks for all the farm.
Yeah, it's what ends up coming down here too with this Dagon build is that the Lifestealer's Rage will eventually not be long enough to kill the Enchantress, which is how they've been controlling her so far. Remember, Axe calls the Wraith King, Lifestealer rages, moves in, and destroys that Enchantress before the rage is up, and she contributes nothing to the fight. Now, though, they've been having some trouble with Untouchable because she's got about 1,800 health, and the Lifestealer is just not able to kill her within the duration of a single rage.
So far, it's worked. It's worked out this plan. You can see that they're getting the backup plan already in play. That's what I like about watching Georgia Tech. They use those big old tech brains to make sure there's always a backup plan going on to keep them in this thing. Speaking of something going on, Toy is going to super push the bottom lane with a huge amount of ranged creeps, and that'll do some damage. He'll come in now and start to do some chipping. Gets a nice disruption to buy himself some more space, but here comes the axe. The chase is there. He wants the call. Toy can't get... Whoa! What a lucky ducky.
Yeah, that was honestly a pretty dumb push coming out of Georgia Tech. They had 2 lanes super pushing into them with creeps, and even if the OD wasn't out there, this tower would have dropped by a quarter just because Georgia Tech was being a little impatient. And they do have more impetus for action. They have an Aegis. They have an advantage that they're losing every second of the game, that they aren't taking a high ground. But you got to make sure you're doing it in such a way that your lanes are going to be relatively equalized. In an ideal world, you've got every lane pushing, but at the very least, you can't be getting pushed in the other lanes. That's just how you lose objectives without any real cause.
And so far, Georgia Tech seems to be keeping their chaos a little better gathered around themselves. That said, don't write off Long Beach. They fought a long, hard road to get here. They came in, I believe, undefeated in the spring. And really have played very clean Dota. The problem is, have they played against a scrappy squad like we're seeing out of Georgia Tech? They keep the push alive, so LB is going to go to the top, but Georgia Tech heads straight to the bottom. Now, you just brought this up. They were over-aggressively pushing the top lane, and they got a little bit of trouble from that OD rotation. Are they going to do it again here?
Yeah, this time it's a little better. They only have 2 waves going into their base, so they'll lose a little bit of health on the tower, but it's not like they're going to drop it by a quarter. Right? So this is a much better push. So more importantly, their mid lane is equalized out about the river. So they can
now they move. Quan wants to go on the sniper. Sniper kills are important. Blade Mail saves. Moves on Quan. Blade Mail falls off of Quan. Quan with the Force Staff to safety. No, Len Toke wants to finish the job. Pops his Blade Mail. Goes after your name. Can he finish the job? He does. The dunk is real, baby. In comes the play. Mikasa going after Fuego. Trying to finish the job. Fuego wants the coddle. Saved by the OD. Turns back on Quan. Heals himself up. The toggle's a real. Toke coming in. He's got the call. He catches the double. Aegis is popped. Toke on the run. Acid in the air. Mikasa setting up for a blind skewer. Wants to go. Shockwave out. Buyback from Quan. And Dyer's got to consider their options. They move forward. They're putting the work on the melee. Quan comes in. Dodges the stun. Does Fuego with a nice rage. That'll give them the melee racks. They'll probably finish it and then walk away.
Yeah, they are going to certainly finish it. And
all right, but here comes. He gets the skewer, pulls him back. They knew they might be in trouble, but the Force Staffs are there. Nicely done. I'll tell you what, the Force Staffs coming out of Adstant have been Johnny on the spot in this match so far. They'll go back, stop the slight split push that only took about 10% of health off of the tower, and in return, they got Zivan, Zetu, and a whole lot of kills.
Yeah, see, that is once again a case where there was a little bit of a lack of patience coming out of Long Beach, although this time it's very understandable. They were under the pressure there. And like the rest of this game, Georgia Tech has been really good during these pushes and during these team fights of staying spread apart so that Magnus can't get one big RP. They really should have waited for Magnus to get a skewer on somebody. It even would have been worth losing the tier 3 relatively uncontested if they could wait for the right skewer moment to engage, instead of having the Wraith King blink in on his own and then have the messy extradition attempt.
All right, so that's at 19-13, the goal lead in Georgia Tech's favor. They want to go after Mikasa. They pop him deep into the woods, and the chase continues, but he should be able to blink himself into a T. Oh no, TP's on cooldown. They don't know that though, so they will let him get himself out as he is called to safety by Corgi, who's finished up that Ag Scepter.
Yeah, that Ag Scepter will be pretty useful here actually for these defense. Having a permanent blinding light is going to be nice, although a lot of these heroes now have BKBs or other mechanisms for dealing with that. Also, just the ability to set and illuminate from relative safety will be quite nice.
All right. We're going to watch this as the XP lead for Georgia Tech has crushed the 10,000 mark, so they are moving faster in terms of their levels. Part of that is because Quan got to a fast 25 on the back of the Midas and then sort of had to peter out from there, while the guys from Georgia Tech are doing it the natural way. So getting very close to 25ing all around. Let me ask you this, Gorgon. Did that hand of Midas pay itself off in terms of, was it a justifiable buy at this stage of the game?
Right now, I think that Midas was a contributing factor to this game going awry. Either the Hand of Midas purchase happens and they play more passively, or the Hand of Midas purchase doesn't happen and they try to play aggressively, but they tried to mix those. And it's one or the other. You're not allowed to try and mix and match here. It's not a la carte. So the Midas did not play into the tactics that they were running, and we saw them lose a lot of fights because of it, or at least due to it in part.
All right, now comes the rotation. Looks like they want some action.
Ooh.
Quan blinks straight into Ro8, hoping for a surprise initiation. Bart's going to go out the back. He has to hide. Wraparound now coming. Lots of damage potential from the sniper. They pop the BK or the blade mail on Quan. Mikasa going after Bart. Misses the skewer, but the BKB is blown on Mikasa. That was his 9-second charge. Immediately smoke and aggression. Lennon going to lead the charge. Comes in, puts up the call. No one there. But the chase is on. Corgi gets caught. Mikasa from the back. It's a nice pull on everybody. He's going to get a big play by the OD as he tries to go out from the back. Nicely done, but the chase is on. Game is hard. Lennon Toke with the call. That'll be the end of him. The dunk misses, but the kill doesn't. Meanwhile, Fuego and Adston putting in some work on the other side of the map as they go for the 4. Close the distance on Quan, who's the last man standing. He'll come back to life, but be put right back into his grave. No Easter for the Wraith King today.
He might actually get a return kill on this lifestealer if they're not careful.
He does go down.
KB, yeah. Or the Wraith King desperately needs a BKB. The lifestealer going down there is a small consolation prize. I mean, that adds a surge of gold into the Wraith King's pocket. Unfortunately, they're going to give up the Aegis, and they're probably going to give up a chunk of a tier 3, if not another set of racks, because of that engagement.
Big push coming, only a buyback on the Magnus, 100 seconds down on the Wraith King, and that is like throwing chum in the water, and Georgia Tech is a whole bunch of sharks as they start to push towards this high ground. They smell weakness, they smell a successful push, and they are ready to capitalize on it. They don't have the Lifestealer just yet, but that should change as they head to the high ground. Lennon Toke going to go ahead and be the lead man since the Lifestealer is not here. Aston being very careful. He's in charge of the zoning. Decides to go deep, but misses it because of a good Eel Scepter. This will buy plenty of time, though, for them to finish off that tower. So Aston accomplished what he wanted to. He's able to go ahead and get his Force Staff out. They take the tower, and they back away. So Aston does a good job of getting him stuff.
Back away here. I think that the Lifestealer should buy Boots of Travel with instead of trying to finish his Abyssal. Just buy Boots of Travel to TP and get the racks and call it a day. There's no way they lose a fight with RP down and with Wraith King. I guess RP's back up right now, but with Wraith King down, and that's almost all of the right-click damage that they have as long as the Enchantress is controlled, there's very little chance they lose that fight. Oh, okay, well, Enchantress might just find herself dead here in a second.
She comes in and does an investigation. Game is hard. Goes around. He's got the Shadow Play, or the Silver Edge. Nice play by Your Name to get himself out of trouble. They're going to see Coddle Blast comes through. The rest of the team is here. Precarious situation. In comes the jump from the Earthshaker. Lennon with the Infest. Looking for the call. He gets it. That'll be a dead Magnus. Nice try by Corgi1. Corgi1 tries to get himself away. Bart putting in a lot of work with his ultimate. There comes the knockback, and they buy the space to get themselves to safety. And Corgi will escape, but that essentially says, here, have you some Roche.
I really don't know what that Enchantress was doing, scouting that. Why the whole went out there and scouted that. She could have enchanted a creep, walked the creep over to the Roche pit so that they could see what was going on. They obviously weren't going to contest without the Wraith King. There's a very, very low probability to make any sort of real contest without him, because they, even if they get a whole team in reverse polarity, they have no splash damage whatsoever, right? Without the Wraith King empowered, there's no follow-up to reverse polarity. So you might as well just farm out your side of the map, wait for the Wraith King to come back up, play defensive. But once again, Long Beach they are not respecting the disadvantage this draft puts them at when it comes to neutral fighting grounds.
Right. Well, they'll start to push up again. Game is hard. Going to throw up the shrapnel. Try to start to do some chipping on the towers. Gets caught by the Illuminate, but there's just so much health on these heroes right now. He can't do much about it. In comes Quan. Immediately the Infest Bomb goes off. Blade Mail to buy some time. BKB from Len and Toke. Quan wants to go after Sniper. Toke goes after Your Name on the Kite. Fuego moving on the Wraith King. Lennon out the back, so he goes to the bottom to try and make his escape. Wraith King goes down for the first time. Will walk away to wait out his timers. Game is hard. Keeps the chip going. Corgan to slow down the right-click ability. Dodges Illuminate. And no one goes down. They do manage to get the ultimate from the Wraith King, but the problem is this stage of the game, 25 seconds till it's back off a cooldown. Mikasa looking for a big initiation. Tote comes in, gets the triple. Adsit decides not to use the Echo Slam. It doesn't matter. Quan ends up going down. Came in 15 seconds before his ultimate came off. Fuego's got to back away. Hit with the Illuminate. Now it's some trouble for Lekin as he gets stuck. He gets caught with the Impetus. He goes down. He's just going to get left behind as Bart and Sniper have to run for the hills. Now they turn back and say, let's get the kill on Fuego. Fuego with the rage. Turns around, decides to kill some creeps. Goes for the Infest to buy some time. Will pop out and be rescued by his team.
Yeah, he's not in danger as long as this Wraith King doesn't.
Quan with a nice blink forward, gets the stun on the Sniper. Big play for him. Turns back around the Skewer to pull back Fuego. Fuego wants Quan. Quan pops the Blade Mail, getting caught by the Impetus. He's got to run away, but he's being chased on all sides. A good Fisher, but Toy's on the other side. He's got the right clicks. He's got everything that they need. The gem is down, as is the Lifestealer, and a huge comeback for the guys from Radiant. They needed that.
Look how easy that seemed. They played defensively with high ground advantage, even though they gave up a tower, which I think they gave up earlier, actually. Mm-hmm. They relatively easily defended against an Aegis.
Dire got nothing out of that entire exchange.
Yeah, so now imagine if they had started doing that 15 or 20 minutes ago and just forcing their opponents to push them and lose fights. Long Beach would be way out ahead right now. They would be in much better situation as if they had just decided to take those fights instead of being too aggressive. Now, the question is, how does Georgia Tech react to that loss, right? They lost a gem, they lost a couple of heroes, they gave a surge of gold to their opponents, and they lost their last chance to really push with an Aegis for a while. They presumably feel after that fight that they are a bit on a timer. They could maybe afford to farm a little bit as long as they've got good vision and can prevent their opponents from farming as quickly. But ultimately, they will need to try and push high ground before that Roche comes back up.
Len and Toke going to move down towards the mid to join the rest of his team. Bart and Adstint trying to hang back, get some XP. And keep an eye on the happenings on the Radiant side. The gold lead is still in Georgia Tech's favor by about 9,000. The XP in their favor, though, by 20,000, as we've hit the point where that doesn't matter so much because we are max leveling everybody. Sniper still with most of the items at 27,000. So he's actually got a really impressive net worth, all things considered here. The Mjolnir, the Silver Edge, now the Boots of Travel. The BKB is at 6 seconds, but it still seems to be enough for what they're putting on him, and an Eagle Song. Now, this is their third answer, right, for the dealing with the problem that has presented itself, which is Enchantress. It seems like once that Butterfly... I'm sorry, is he going Butterfly? Never mind. I was thinking MKB. Is Butterfly going to give him the survivability he requires to stay in this, or should have gone for something more damage impactful?
I think Butterfly's okay. The big sources of damage right now are Wraith King and Enchantress. Sniper is almost always outside of the cleave area for Wraith King. So evasion doesn't help deal with cleave, but Sniper usually doesn't have to deal with that anyway.
I thought he'd be more interested.
Both the right clicks from Enchantress and Wraith King are available, and neither of those heroes is going for an MKB anytime soon. So it should help a bit. It's by no means like, they win the game if they get that item, but it should help the Sniper out. Plus, it increases his damage a lot.
Yeah, I thought he'd go for an MKB to try and just burn down the Enchantress in these fights.
Well, he can't right-click that Enchantress anyway, unless he burns his BKB.
Wow, big initiation. They go in and get run right out of the gate, but Quan turns back around. He will ultimately die. Coming back up, though, Bart with a full duration ultimate, putting in tons and tons of work as the Wraith King comes right back up into it. You're not going to be able to blink because of that. Locked out, going to get sniped. OD goes for the save, though. He'll isolate himself in the meantime. Quan turns back around. He goes down. Buyback on the OD. Time to push. Impetus from the long range, though. Your name going to cause a little bit of trouble, but there's the chip down of the ranged racks. Chip down of the melee racks. Glyph is popped. That's great news for the guys on the side of Dire. Fuego taking shots from your name, but going to heal him right back up. They will take this racks. They'll move over to the top lane. Corgi going to try to push everybody backwards. Good mischance to buy a little bit of space, but it's not going to be quite enough. Your name, Impetus on Fuego. Fuego's got to back up, but they took the tower. Toke looking for a chance to initiate as he tries to play the zoning game. Fuego comes forward again, says, I want your racks. Your racks is mine. Toke gets the call, goes for OD. OD in some trouble. Corgi can't get there in time. OD goes down, and Chances was out of range. They've got to fall back. The GG comes out once the OD goes down. That was game one. Georgia Tech, slow start, great finish. Gorgon, do you have a banned player of the game for that match?
Yeah, it's absolutely Toke on the axe. He gave the counter initiations to the Magnus perfectly. And bear in mind, despite the fact that he lost, Magnus played the mid portions of that game really well. He had a lot of good engagements. He was targeting the right people, but Toke was just there to counter him every single time. When his team over-engaged, Toke was able to salvage a lot of fights. He got a lot of good initiations, and he basically sutured the entire strategy together so effortlessly as to make his opponents look much worse than they really are.
All right, so congratulations there. Guys, don't go anywhere. This is the C Star League. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV. I'm Jordan Gorgon, the Wonder Cow. You can find him at the Wonder Cow over on Twitter. You can find all of us at C Star League. And you can find us right here because we're coming back for Game 2 in this best-of-3 series where Long Beach has a chance to stay in it. But it's going to take everything they got. So go nowhere. And in the meantime, here's some words from those who make it all possible.